We left Seattle before dawn, the world still asleep. The air was cold, the streets silent, and yet inside there was this quiet rush of excitement. This trip had been a long time coming, something we had dreamed about for years. With the government shutdown just beginning, we left early to avoid delays, but maybe, deep down, we just couldn't wait any longer. By midday, we were at the airport. Our flight lifted off from Seattle at 12:30, bound for Istanbul, nearly 12 hours across the world. We landed the next morning at 10:25 beneath the golden haze of Istanbul, a short layover before the final stretch west. At 2:25, we took off again, 3.5 hours later, descending into Barcelona, where the city glowed in the light of early evening, 15 hours in the sky. And after all this time, it was finally happening. From the moment we stepped out of El Prat Airport, everything felt different. The air was warmer, filled with the rhythm of a city already alive. As the taxi rolled through the streets, I watched Barcelona reveal itself, trees swaying, sunlight flickering on stone facades, a blur of colors and voices and motion. Every turn pulled me deeper into its pulse, and when we entered the Gothic Quarter, the narrow streets closed in, like an embrace centuries of history rising on both sides. At last, we stopped at Hotel Catalonia Portal de l'Angel, my home for the next 3 days. The anticipation, the waiting, the dreaming, it all led to this moment. Just off the bustling rhythm of La Rambla, we slipped into the shadows of the Gothic Quarter, a labyrinth of alleys that felt like pages of history still breathing. Each narrow street curved like a secret, drawing us further from the noise and deeper into a kind of silent grandeur. The architecture whispered stories, with balconies draped in ivy, wrought iron lanterns hanging overhead, and aged stones that had felt the footsteps of centuries. Every turn seemed to unveil a hidden gem, a quiet, Romanesque church, a small plaza echoing with guitar strings, or a glimpse of the iconic Pont del Bisbe, the Bishop's Bridge, stretching like a Gothic sigh above our heads. We didn't follow a map. We followed the breeze. It flowed constantly through the alleyways, gentle, almost mischievous, carrying with it the scent of spices from nearby tapas bars, perfume from passers-by, and something older like parchment or sun-baked stone. The aroma shifted from one moment to the next, and somehow it made the walls feel alive. People passed by speaking in a symphony of languages: Spanish, Catalan, English, Italian, Arabic, Tagalog, each voice adding a layer to the music of the streets. Locals on bicycles, artists sketching on benches, couples pausing to look up at gargoyles or ancient crests carved into the walls. Then the alleys opened up like a held breath released, and we stepped into Plaza San Jaume, the political heart of old Barcelona, the Palau de la Generalitat on one side, the city hall on the other. It was here that Roman roads once crossed, here that Catalonia's most important decisions were, and still are, made. The contrast between light and shade guided us, changing the mood from one moment to the next. One step felt warm and golden, the next cool and mysterious. It was as if the city itself was breathing and we were moving in rhythm with it. We continued into Elborn, where history and art seemed to intertwine. Boutiques spilled into the streets, local artists displayed their work along the stone walls, and the hum of conversation carried a different tone, more relaxed, more intimate. As the afternoon light deepened, we found ourselves once again standing before the Cathedral of Barcelona, the same place we had discovered that morning in silence and shadow. But now, the plaza was alive. Tourists, locals, and children filling the space that had once been ours alone. The gates were closed once more, but I smiled, knowing this was a story still waiting to unfold. By evening, exhaustion set in. We didn't even stop for dinner. Our stomachs were empty, but everything else, our eyes, our hearts, our souls felt completely full. And as we lay in bed that night, the echoes of Barcelona played softly in our minds. The footsteps in the alleys, the swirl of languages, the dance of light and shade. It was only the first day, but already Barcelona had found a way to stay with us. We woke before dawn, while the city still slept. I wanted to see the Sagrada Família reflected in the pond before the day began. The air was cool and still. We stopped at a quiet cafe near the park. Small tables, gentle clatter of cups, the comfort of coffee and a sandwich to start the morning. It was simple, but it felt like a small ritual, a way of preparing for something timeless. Across the street, the park was nearly empty. We found the bench beside the pond and waited. At first, the world was nothing but soft outlines. Then, gradually, the light began to change. The towers appeared, slender, graceful, their reflection trembling on the surface of the water, as if the entire basilica was breathing. It was mesmerizing. I sat quietly, just watching, as the light revealed more and more of Gaudí's masterpiece. Eventually, I reached for my camera and set up a time-lapse, trying to capture not just what I saw, but what I felt. The patience, the calm, the quiet unfolding of beauty. We lingered there as the city slowly came alive behind us. The murmur of voices, the sound of traffic, the rhythm of Barcelona returning to motion. Even as the crowds gathered, the place still felt peaceful, as though the moment refused to rush. From there, we walked toward the Example district. The streets widened, the air opened. Here, everything feels balanced. Geometric lines, ornate facades, a perfect rhythm between order and imagination. We followed Passeig de Gracia, where every building seems to tell its own story. Iron balconies curled like vines, windows glimmered with color, and the ground beneath our feet carried the mosaic patterns of the city itself. We stopped at a bench and just watched the world move. People passing by, some rushing, others lost in thought. It felt good to pause, to let the city flow around us. Eventually, we reached Casa Mila, its stone facade rippling like water frozen mid-motion. Standing there, I thought about how this city turns structure into poetry, how even in its stillness it feels alive. Later, before returning to the hotel, we made one last stop at Plaza de Catalunya. The pigeons circled lazily overhead, children played near the fountains, and the wide open square felt like both an ending and a beginning. We sat for a moment quietly, watching the energy of the city we had come to know so well. Tomorrow we would travel to Madrid, but in that moment, Barcelona felt complete. It's hard to put into words what this city gives you. It's not just what you see, it's what you feel when you slow down enough to notice. The rhythm of footsteps echoing in the alleys, the warmth of stone catching the light, the way the air carries music even in silence. Barcelona isn't just a place you visit, it's something that stays with you long after you've gone. Morning light streamed through the glass roof of Barcelona Sand Station. It was time to move again. Not a goodbye, but a continuation. At 11:40 a.m., our high-speed AVE train departed, gliding silently out of Barcelona. Through the window, I watched the city's faded skyline, its rhythm, its warmth, as we moved deeper into Spain. The journey to Madrid Puerta de Atocha station would take a little under 3 hours, and I captured a time-lapse from my seat. Outside, the landscape shifted. Rolling green hills gave way to wide, golden plains. Mountains softened into farmland. Colors turned from cool blues to the earthy tones of Castile. The train felt almost weightless, the world streaming by like a painting in motion. At around 3 p.m., we arrived in Madrid. The air felt lighter, crisp, open, and full of movement. Even the light seemed different, softer somehow, yet bright with possibility. We filmed our disembarkation, then stepped outside the Atocha station, surrounded by palm trees and grand architecture. A short taxi ride carried us through the heart of the city, past elegant boulevards and old facades, until we reached Hotel Liabeni, quietly nestled between Puerta del Sol and Gran Via, a place where Madrid's pulse beats strongest. Later that afternoon, we took our first short walk through Plaza and Puerta del Sol. The plazas were alive, performers, laughter, the smell of roasted chestnuts, and a kind of energy that felt both grand and familiar. Standing there, I realized how different Madrid feels. More open, more stately, but with a warmth that invites you in immediately. This day was a bridge, a passage between two worlds, from the artistic heartbeat of Barcelona to the royal grandeur of Madrid. The journey itself felt like part of the story, a quiet reminder that movement can be as beautiful as arrival. Morning light slipped through the narrow streets of Seoul, reflecting off windows and wrought iron balconies just beginning to stir. From our hotel near Puerta del Sol, we stepped into the rhythm of Madrid, the scent of espresso and warm pastries drifting from cafés, the distant echo of church bells marking the start of our first day in Spain's capital. There's a distinct pulse here, a heartbeat that feels both regal and intimate, as if every stone carries a trace of history. From Seoul, we walked west through cobblestone lanes winding toward the Royal Palace of Madrid. Each corner revealed something new: pastel facades, shaded courtyards, street musicians playing soft guitar. And then, the city opened up and the Palacio Real stood before us, vast, luminous, majestic. Built in the 18th century, after a fire destroyed the old Moorish-era fortress, the palace was envisioned by King Philip V, the first Bourbon monarch of Spain. Inspired by Versailles, he sought to create a residence that embodied strength, unity, and grace. Though the royal family no longer lives here, it remains the largest palace in Western Europe, with more than 3,000 rooms, silent witnesses to royal ceremonies, alliances, and centuries of Spain's evolution. I walked slowly through the Plaza de la Armeria, the courtyard stretching between the palace and the cathedral. The marble statues of ancient kings watched over Madrid in stillness, their silhouettes framed by the pale glow of the morning light. In that quiet space, beside the palace, rose the Cathedral de la Almudena, its neoclassical facade harmonizing perfectly with the palace's elegance. Stepping inside, the air cooled and settled into reverent silence. Then I looked upward. The ceiling unfolded like a painted tapestry, a kaleidoscope of red, green, blue, and gold, forming intricate geometric patterns that radiated energy and movement. Unlike the muted tones of older cathedrals, Almudena's ceiling felt alive, a celebration of faith, rendered in color and light. The hues shifted gently as I moved, filling the space with quiet vibrance. I stood there for a while, camera tilted toward the ceiling, watching how the light traced each contour. Later, I climbed the narrow staircase to the rooftop, where the city stretched endlessly below the royal palace. Gleaming in the distance, the Manzanares River winding beyond the rooftops, and the twin towers of the cathedral framing the skyline. The breeze carried faint echoes from the streets, footsteps, laughter, fragments of conversation, all blending into a peaceful harmony. From the palace, we descended through the old quarter. From there, we crossed into the Thyssen-Bornemisza Museum, where the mood shifted from stone and faith to color and canvas. Inside, the walls spoke in the language of art, from medieval altarpieces to Van Gogh's swirling skies and Hopper's quiet light. It was a journey through centuries of vision and emotion, each painting a window into another mind. Later, we boarded an open-top bus, letting the city reveal itself, street by street, the grandeur of Gran Via, the fountains of Cibeles, the tree-lined boulevards leading toward Retiro Park. Madrid rolled by like a living gallery, modern and classical, layered and endlessly vibrant. Evening approached as we wandered down to the Mercado de San Miguel, burst to life a feast of color and sound. Counters gleamed with tapas and seafood, the air filled with chatter, clinking glasses, and the aroma of jamón ibérico. Madrid's appetite, vibrant, communal, joyful, was everywhere. That night, we found ourselves in La Latina, drawn by the rhythm of a flamenco tablao. The room was dim, intimate the stage, a few chairs, and silence just before the first strum of guitar. Then it happened: the stomp of heels, the sharp clap of hands, the singer's raw cry filling the room. Every movement carried emotion, grace, defiance, sorrow, pride, all at once. In that moment, Madrid wasn't just seen or heard, it was felt. In Barrio de las Letras, The poetry etched into the pavement reflected under the lights. We sat at a small table and watched people walk by past midnight. The city moved gently, unhurried, alive. Our stay in Madrid felt complete, a tapestry of architecture, art, and emotion. The palace stood as Spain's memory, the cathedral as its soul, the museum as its voice, and the flamenco as its heartbeat. Barcelona had awakened my wonder, but Madrid touched something deeper, a quiet resonance that stays long after the music fades.